Hi, everyone. Welcome to our Zoom. Feel free to put in the chat
Hello.
where you're coming from, and please keep yourself muted so that we don't have anyone talking at the same time.
Hello, hello.
Hello. Hmm. And we will take questions at the end. All right, so let's get started talking about our France retreat. I'm Andrea. I'm the administrative coordinator at Traverse Journeys, and we have Letty and Tegan with us here today.
Hello.
And I'll let you guys introduce yourselves.
Um, okay. Letty, do you want to take the lead on that one?
Go ahead.
Okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Tegan. I will be the local host on this tour. A little bit about me. I am from Canada, from Toronto, Ontario. I was a plus-size model in Canada for 7 years, and I moved to France and moved to the southwest of France in Toulouse and started working as a travel content creator and travel blogger. I have been doing that ever since. I lived in Toulouse for 4 years, and then we moved to Ariége, which is about an hour south of there. And I am very much so in love with this region, and I'm very, very excited to share it with everybody.
Hi, everybody. I'm Letty Alvarez. I live in Austin, and I'm the yoga instructor and co-host on this trip to France. Can't wait. I have hosted 6 Traverse Journeys retreats. We're about to go on one in a couple weeks. Very exciting. We'll talk more about the yoga when we get to that section, but I live in Austin. Very excited to see all of you. And Tegan and I have been working on this trip alongside Traverse for about 6-8 months. So created a beautiful experience, I hope.
Yeah, it's exciting. Also, I'm going to be running the slides on this, and it's my first time doing slides. So like, I think it's fine, but just in case, bear with me. Should I start clicking through them now, do you think?
Yeah, I would go to the next one. I think that one had
Okay.
your pictures on it.
Oh, wait, now it's not going. Maybe I just do that. Okay. Oh, that's where we should have been for this. Sorry, that's
Yeah,
my
that's
okay.
okay.
Now we'll start. Now I got the flow.
Okay, before we dive into the trip details, I'll tell you a little bit about Traverse. We are a tour operator. We run trips in 25 different countries, and we focus on people, planet, and purpose. So if you can go to the next one. So what that means for us, people, it's about the interactions, the conversations, and about the impact, and keeping money in local economies and having a positive experience, just not only for you and the transformative experience that you will have, but also for the people you encounter and the communities that you interact with. And then planet is the next one. Planet is a concept like leaving no trace, minimizing our waste, minimizing the use of plastics, for example, waste reduction. And those are the types of things that we're looking for when we plan our trips. And purpose is giving things meaning. If you could go to the next one. Yep. Giving things meaning. Every trip we plan, we have a nonprofit community partner that's doing impactful work for the community and really creating transformative experiences, not only for you as the traveler, but also the places that you're visiting. And we want to pay those places respect. And then I'll hand it off to you guys.
I guess so. For the beginning of this, I'll be diving into a little bit of a cap of or an overview of the south of France or of the Occitanie region, actually. So I think a lot of people, when they think about France, they usually think about Paris, which is up towards the north, or they think about the south of France, Côte d'Azur. So where we are going to be going on this tour is actually the region of Occitane. This is actually the second largest region in the country. And we'll be visiting 3 different departments while we're there. So we'll be in Haute-Garonne, in Ariège, and Aude. The populations are varied. As you can see through the entire of Occitane, there's 6.1 million people. Through the Haute-Garonne, there's about approximately 1.4 million. Ariège, where I actually live, what's happening? There we go. Okay. Ariège, where I actually live, it's a very, very small population of people. So just under 155,000 people. And then in Aude, there's approximately 380,000 people. The languages of this area are French. That's what everybody uses is French, but there is a local language of Occitan or Doc, depending on who you're talking to about it. The currency is the euro. And the major airport we would be flying in and out of is the Toulouse-Blagnac Airport. So this is a little bit about the geography and the climate. I'm just going to see if I can move my little conversation bubble over here so I can see the slides better myself. So Toulouse is the capital city of the Occitanie region, and it's also considered the gateway to the south of France. It's a big city, but it has a really small town feel, which is what's really, really nice and quite special about Toulouse. I didn't do this on purpose, but actually these photos in the slide, the first photo you can see here is the Canal du Midi in Toulouse at sunset, which is a very big hot spot for everybody to go and hang out, have wine, and just enjoy the sun setting. The middle photo is actually Ariège, the department I live in. It's actually a view from the back of my house. And then the third photo is actually in Aude, in a village that I hope we'll be taking you to on the tour. But these are actually just clippets of the 3 departments that will be visited on the tour. The countryside consists of beautiful rolling hills, farmland with small kind of medieval style villages dotted all along. There's a lot of beautiful forest, and there's also the Pyrenees mountains. So the Pyrenees mountains are a natural border between France and Spain. And so we're really going to be in the most southern part, essentially, of France between us and Spain. The weather tends to be pretty moderate, like pretty gentle and sunny. However, I will say that we have felt the effects of climate change in the last couple of years. So at the time we're doing the trip, May, I think by then it should be good. We should be into like a really luscious spring, but it's always advisable to bring rain clothes just in case, because we are in the mountains and sometimes things change up here. So this kind of gives you here a snapshot of the department that I'm speaking of. So this is the department of the Occitan, and the region of the Occitan, and the region is set up into 13 smaller departments. So you can see here is the Haute-Garonne. This is the capital, Toulouse. And then this is where we will spend the majority of our trip in Ariège. And then we'll also be going to this area here in Aude during the tour. Toulouse is also famously known as La Ville Rose, which is the pink city. And that is because it's very unique for a French city in the fact that it has all of the buildings that are constructed there are constructed with beautiful pink and reddish colored bricks. Normally here you will see, throughout France, you'll usually see different styles that are more like white brick or dark red, but Toulouse is one of those cities that it's got this beautiful light pink color in all of the brickwork, complemented by very light blue pastel shutters. I don't know if you can see my shutter behind me, but those are everywhere. So that's very typical for this area. And Toulouse itself is quite a well-known city. It's famous for a few things, including the Basilica of Saint-Sernin, which is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, the Canal du Midi, which is also a UNESCO Heritage Site, the second oldest university in France after the Sorbonne, which is the University de Toulouse. And Airbus International has its European headquarters in the city. So it's safe to say that there are plenty of people in the city of Toulouse that actually work at Airbus. Almost, I'd say like maybe 9 out of 10 people who work at Airbus or are involved with the different businesses around Airbus in some way. And Toulouse itself has a big aviation history, which I hope at some point we'll dive into when you guys come. And also it's famous for the Stade Toulouse. So I don't know if many people know this, but France, of course, everybody loves football or soccer, as we say in North America. But also France is a really big rugby country, and the biggest rugby place in the whole country, I would say, is probably Toulouse. Stade Toulouse is like the best or the second best team in the country. And I mention it because we're actually in the rugby international like championships right now, and we've had a whole bunch of games here, so there's a lot of hype and energy. The last time I was in Toulouse, I actually met some Americans that were here just for the rugby games. So it's important. It's a big part of the culture and the identity of Toulousan people. Yes, so the history can be, it's pretty complex and it's pretty dense. It's way too much to fit on a little slide. But to give like a very generalized overview, before 50 BCE, the area is part of like the Gaul Empire. So when they say Gaul or Gaulois in French, they're kind of referring to the Celtic Empire that had kind of control over this area. Specifically, where we'll be in Ariége, there were a lot of little smaller groups, and there was always a lot happening around the city of Toulouse. So the city of Toulouse has been a very interesting place for people throughout all of history. After 50 BCE to about 486 CE, and I know those things and those dates are probably hard to make context out of them, but it was a really long time ago. The Roman Empire expanded and made the entire area Gallo-Roman. And it is quite important because you can see to this day, we still have traces of the Roman walls of the original city of Toulouse that are in Toulouse, just like hanging out. They're basically ancient artifacts that are just like in the city. So it's very interesting. The third century, we begin to see a bunch of invasions from different Germanic tribes. The Visigoths take Toulouse for a time as their capital, and the Merovingian Franks, I hope I'm saying it right, ends up taking over the area in 486 to 987. Gaul, the area that is considered Gaul, this part, is united with Paris under Clovis I. So like this area has always been an area that people have wanted to capture or own for whatever reason. The fact that it's on that natural border there has a lot to do with it. The fact that the land is incredibly fertile out here, the weather is very good. It's like it has a lot of conditions that make it a place that's has been very interesting. And it's always been relatively rebellious in nature and in spirit. And in the period when the Franks were really controlling Paris, they really wanted to unite and make France kind of what we know of it today. So that is really crucial and essential to the history of France, but like also to this area as well, because it was something quite far away from them. France is really small, but we're about 9 hours, I'd say, from Paris. But you can imagine way back then, it must have felt like miles, like a million miles away. So it was important for them to get this area. And because of that rebellious spirit, we see in the 11th and 13th centuries, we see the rise of the Cathars and the Albigensian. I'm not saying that right. I always want to say Albician, but that's not right. But anyways, we see the rise of the Cathars and a major crusade with the help of the church, the Catholic Church and France, to crush the rise of the Cathars. And I mentioned that because the area we'll be visiting the majority of the time that we're on the tour, we'll actually get to see some of these beautiful old Cathar ruins and castles, and we'll even have an opportunity to visit some of them, hike up to some of them and see them. And it's very much, the energy of this area is very deeply connected to the Cathar, so it's definitely worth sharing. Then we see the era of like we cross a lot of time, right? And then we see the era of the capitals, which were an administrative group based out of Toulouse between the 15th and the 16th century. After the 16th century, like in the 16th century, the revolution, the French Revolution happens, and that dramatically changes the landscape politically for the entire country. And I think most of us have some idea of what that's about, but there is so much more history than that. But if I go, I could probably be here all day. I would say I'm a little bit of a history geek, but I'm not like a historian. So bear with me on my facts on that one. So in terms of values, so an individualist culture, yes, I'd say it's kind of similar to the United States, with the emphasis on taking care of oneself and one's family, but also there is a strong emphasis on respect for the elders. And in France, there is a very strong distinction between work life and private life. I'd say that's maybe not just located to France, but in France, people really work to live. They don't live to work. And like, for example, I have a friend of mine who's very young. She's like 26 and she has 11 weeks of holidays. She can't actually take the amount of holidays that she gets at her job. So holidays are very, very important in France. And because of this, we take the opportunity to have every holiday we possibly can. The country is considered non-secular, but we still celebrate every single Catholic holiday that's imaginable. Even the ones we don't celebrate in North America are celebrated here. Any reason we can to not work and spend time having fun with friends and family, we will take it. And you can really feel this slow vibe and this slow energy when you come here. This really like relaxed, laid back kind of energy is pervasive through the whole country. So yeah, etiquette. Always try to speak a little bit of French first. It's always good to say bonjour, comment ça va? Like, hello, how are you? A lot of the time, especially in Toulouse, because Toulouse is home to the Airbus capital, and it's because it's known historically as a university city, there's a lot of younger people, and there are a lot of English-speaking people that have been brought in from various places because of Airbus. So people are very used to English, and most people speak English. When I lived there for the first 3 years I was there, oftentimes when I'd be trying to practice my French, I would have people be like, oh, but I can tell you're English and I want to practice my English with you. And I'd be like, but I'm trying to practice my French. And it would turn into this whole thing. All this to say, I know there's a lot of stigma around like French people and how they are in relation to French, the language. I would say, at least in this area, in the Occitan, in Toulouse, people are very open and welcoming. I think if you can start by just saying hello in French and then saying, like, I don't speak French very well, or you can even say it in English, most people will be like, oh, it's okay, I'll try with you in English, and it's quite nice. But it's always nice to lead with the local language first, if you can. If I can't, I just apologize right off the bat. I'm super Canadian, and people are usually pretty nice about it. The food here is traditionally French in the sense that it's very meat centric. People really do love their meats here. They're very passionate about it, but it's generally quite balanced food. And I also am very proud of the fact that Toulouse and the areas that we'll be visiting are very pro vegan and vegetarian. So there are options, whereas in other parts of France, it might be a bit trickier to find options. We have a lot more options. Even out here in my tiny village of like a couple hundred people, I can go to the neighboring village and find vegetarian options, which is really awesome. So that's a very good thing about where we live. It's special to where we live, I think. And the art and literature. Art and culture is kind of around the style of the French populaire, which I didn't even know existed really when I moved here. And it was my husband, who is French, who explained it to me. If anybody has ever seen any sort of like Cirque du Soleil style of performance, Cirque du Soleil really takes their original styles, the style of busking and all that stuff, those kinds of arts, from French folk popular art, which is really cool. We'll see an example of it further down in the slides. How am I doing, Andrea? I feel like I'm just like talking so fast. I don't know if I should slow down a little bit.
You're doing great, Tegan.
Okay, good. So yes, it's important to know, like I said earlier, the roots of this area are really connected to the Gallo-Roman, to the point where I have even found a company, an incredible company, that makes a wine that they would have drank during the Roman Gallo times here, which is really, really cool and very unusual. So the Gaul was connected to the Celts until Romans kind of came in. It wasn't an invasion so much of like a merging of cultures, as history says, which is why they call it the Gallo-Roman era. Catholic traditions. It's a non-secular country. So what that means is the government is very specific about being clear on the fact that church and state are not run together. So you can have religion in France, but it has nothing to do with government and how government is run and operated. But like I said, we still celebrate a lot of these Catholic holidays, even like the Ascension. So when Jesus rises to heaven, we take that off as a holiday. When Mary rises to heaven, we take that off as a holiday. And this particular area of the Occitan, because of where it's located, really is very strongly influenced by Catalan and Basque. So Catalan is just south of us as you're going into Spain. Catalonia is where people famously know Barcelona to be. But what a lot of people don't know is that there actually is a part of France that is French Catalan. And so you can really see those influences even in the cities here where we live. This is like an area that's quite small in a sense for what most of us North Americans would think of as in terms of size. So my husband and I can drive 3 hours and be on the Atlantic coast. We can drive 3 hours and be at the Mediterranean, just to give you an idea of time and space. It's all very close, but the cultures are really micro. So they're really divided up a lot by area. So there is a part of Catalan that is French. And then we also have the Basque region. So the department to the west of us is Nouveau Occitan, or Aquitaine, sorry. And Basque, which is another well-known region in France, is there. So you can see it. It's apparent in the food. It's apparent in the language, especially when you hear the Occitan language. And you'll see that in Toulouse, if you go on a public transport, they will say things in Occitan and in French. And the arts and culture and just generally that energy, even though we're in France, there is this energy that feels slightly Spanish. And it's because we are so close. I can drive for like an hour and a half and be in Spain into the mountains, just for an example. Arts and craftsmanship, especially where we'll be out in Ariége, is very localized. And like I said, the style is very, very localized. Even in my small department, which is about an hour to 2 hours from one end to the other, there's like a little local style for one specific village or another specific village. And so you'll see that it can get really, really localized based on the area. And there's a really strong element of folk art out here. Artisans that are doing that kind of work. If anybody's ever dreamed about just going off and becoming an artist one day and toiling away in their little studio and stuff, it's very much that style of energy. And it's really cool in a way because it's like going back to the past a bit. So I just want to share a little bit on the 3 photos I have in this slide. The first photo here on the left is actually a photo of one of my favorite museums in Toulouse called the Musée d'Augustin. You can see that it's got these beautiful archways here and that are very indicative of like Catholic churches, but also like Roman columns and things like that. You'll see a lot of that style of architecture throughout all of the little departments that we'll be in. The photo in the middle here, I really wanted to share this because it's really cool. There's a lot of street art in Toulouse, and it's not so often you find older style medieval cities with like an active street art community, but Toulouse really has that. And this artist here, I can't remember her name right now. I'll have to write it down later, but she's a phenomenal artist. She actually lives in LA now. She's a local Toulousan artist, and she did this mural, which is one of the best murals in the city. And she's very, very well known throughout the world as a street muralist now, because she makes more like fresques. She doesn't necessarily spray paint. She actually paints everything by hand. And then finally on the right, I want to show this here. This is just an adorable bakery, not even a bakery. It's just for bread. So this is a bread maker that I found in one of the villages near one of the Cathar ruins that I'll be taking everyone to. And I just had a beautiful experience. I was walking around in the village. It was just after the busy summer season, so nobody was really in the village at the time. I was walking around in the village and I just smell bread, and all of a sudden I look over and I see this little shop, and I can hear a man singing very loudly at the top of his lungs in French, a beautiful song. And I tucked my little head in there, and this guy was like baking his bread in his big old like his big old like brick oven, and he's just singing at the top of his lungs, and you could hear it radiate through the whole village. And again, it just gave me that quaint sense of like rural France, and that is the experience that I hope that everybody will have when they're on this trip with us, really getting stuck in that way. So yeah, why a trip to France? I don't know. Like, I feel like I've said a lot of things of why I love it so much and why it's so great. But slow travel is really the thing. Like I've said earlier, that sense of just really relaxing and taking your time, focusing on the sweetness of life, connection with nature. The Ariège department, like you saw, doesn't have a lot of people. It has a lot of nature and it has a lot of animals, and it's a beautiful opportunity to just really be out in a beautiful forest and mountain setting, to be close and far away at the same time. Tons of beautiful, quaint villages. You will see them when you get here, but very similar to what we're showing in this photo here. And like I said, those blue shutters, you'll see them everywhere because it's really a part of the culture here. French cuisine, I don't know if I need to say much about that because it's pretty fantastic. Artisanal craftsmanship and ancient history, really ancient history, are all of the reasons. So I think maybe Letty, you can speak to Traverse a bit more than I can at the moment, since you have a lot of history of retreats on Traverse, but maybe you want to take it over a little bit.
Thank you. That was great. So here we are in Guatemala, but the reason that I partnered with Traverse Journeys was for these exact reasons. We always stay in locally run accommodations. They're usually smaller. You're not going to be in a big high rise. Nothing wrong with that. But they're going to be more hands-on. You're going to meet the owner. We might have home-cooked meals, and that's very special to me. Usually all the transfers are provided if you arrive on the day that the retreat begins, and then any inter-country transportation as well as we go from one place to another. And you'll have both Tegan and I as your host there, which is very special. And we make sure that there's a culture experience in every single trip. So not just you're hopping off the bus, clicking your pictures, getting back on the bus, and off we go. We want it to be immersive. We want it to be special. We want it to be something you remember. So all the extra activities we've curated are done with that in mind. Again, local organic foods as much as we can get. And as we've mentioned earlier, there's always a nonprofit component. So we identify a nonprofit in each country that Traverse travels to, and they get a percentage of your fees. And usually we get to meet them, see their mission, and know what we're giving to. It's very special. And small trips, you're never going to be in a group more than usually 12, 13, maybe up to 16 tops, depending on the country. So that are some of the traverse experience that kind of set us apart from other tour operators.
So I think that's pretty self-explanatory. That's actually a photo of Ashley and her friend when they came to visit. And I brought them to this gorgeous little spot here in Mirepoix for tapas. And this is a really beautiful little village. It's very nice. And we'll be taking everybody there as well.
Ashley's our owner and founder of Traverse. Brilliant woman.
Yes, absolutely. Accommodations. So this is actually a snapshot of where you'll be having your breakfast when we are in the Ariége portion of the tour. While we're in Toulouse, we're going to be staying at a boutique hotel in the heart of Toulouse. It's literally in the center of everything. It's very close to the famous market in Toulouse. It's actually been run by the same family for 3 generations, and it's in the middle of exactly where you want to be in the city. So that's going to be a really beautiful experience. And then when we head out to Ariège, we're going to be staying at this beautiful chateau, Chateau de Cibre in La Garde. And it's completely one of the most beautiful chateaus I've been in. I've made it a point to kind of check out a lot of the chateaus in the area where we live, and this one is one of my favorites by far. It definitely has the old meets the new kind of energy. The owner is fantastic, and the chef there is absolutely like the most lovely guy ever. So we'll be staying there for 5 nights. And the rooms there are very big and spacious. There's private bathrooms, and like we said, you can always book double occupancy, or you can book your own room. You have that option.
And Tegan, aren't all our dinners included in the chateau?
Yes, they are. So just to give you I think we'll get to that part in the slide in a second. But to give you guys a snapshot of the chateau, this is the chateau here. It's such a gorgeous place. I can't even. And here are some more photos. So the first photo here you can see is the view from the back of the castle. So when you're coming out of the chateau, that's their little cat George, who like hangs out around the chateau. There's a few examples here of the rooms, some of the rooms that you'll be staying in while you're here. And also the chateau has a 8-hectare park around it that you can go in and go for walks. So you can walk all the way from the chateau into this part of the garden, into the back. There's a beautiful pond with a beautiful view, and there's even a bamboo forest there as well. And yes, you're right, Letty. The meals that are going to be included at the chateau will be breakfast and six dinners. So you'll get to have a fully immersive experience with the chef, who is fantastic.
Yes, so although we will offer yoga every day, it doesn't mean you have to do yoga. We want you to pick and choose what you want to do. You may want to hang out and walk the gardens, the lands. But with that being said, the yoga that we will offer will be all levels. It just depends. Have we been hiking all day? Have we been walking? Well, then we're going to do more stretchy type yin to get into the connective tissue and stretch the body and relax. Maybe we're just getting off the plane after 12 hours. That yoga is going to be also getting into the hips, moving our spines, our bodies. And again, you don't have to do it. And even if you choose to, you always do what feels good in your body. This picture is us in Dominica, the island of Dominica. Gorgeous, gorgeous island. And another beautiful thing is the location of where we do the yoga sometimes changes. We may be out on the lawn in the garden. We may be in a shala in a room specifically for yoga. So it can also be a little bit spontaneous. I will read the room, and it's going to be all levels. So don't be nervous if you don't do a lot of yoga or just starting yoga. And again, you choose what you want to do, so you don't have to even participate in the yoga, but we'll offer it every day. I'm also a yoga therapist, which just means we go deeper than just the postures, the asanas. We can also do breath work and see what's blocked, what isn't, how can we move forward to find more peace and comfort in your body. There we are in Guatemala and Morocco. Guatemala on the left, Morocco on the right. Just a real diverse group. All my groups tend to go from 20 something to 80. Again, it's for everybody. And one of the things I love about yoga retreats is that we come back richer with new friends, with new experiences. So like for me, interacting with you in a class in 1 hour, I'll know you, we'll chat, we'll say hi, but after a yoga retreat, we're friends and we share meals, we break bread, we share conversation, and that's really special, bringing us into a bonded community, bonded group. That happens on
Yeah.
trip.
It
Right.
drives a deeper connection, right, between you and the people you're traveling with and the land around you. You really get to take that moment to really sink into the earth and feel it and really connect with it in quite a visceral way.
Yes, and being that Traverse Journeys keeps their trips small is really special too. So we're not, with 25 people again hopping on a bus with the sign over here. So, which
Yeah,
is,
yeah.
super valuable.
Right. So I'm really excited about the yoga portion of this, and I'm pretty sure I'll be coming every single day, actually, because I think it's great. But one of the other things we are going to also offer on the tour is local excursions. So it's really important that if you're going to come all the way to France, you've got to see, and if you're going to come all the way to southwest of France, which is lesser known than the few famous places in the country, I want to make sure you guys have the absolute best experience possible. It's really, really important to me that you can see how incredible this area is. So one of the things that we'll be doing is we'll be going to Toulouse and we'll be exploring the technique of pastel dyeing. So pastel is actually a plant, and in medieval France, this plant was responsible for creating the famous color blue that I keep referring to, that's on all of the shutters. You'll see it everywhere in the city. But it was also responsible for any like royal dress that you saw that was in blue. It would have been made with pastel. So this is pre-indigo coming in. So the area of Toulouse was most famous for growing it and producing the dye and creating that color fabric. And that brought the area an immense amount of wealth in medieval time. So we are going to be taking you to a local artisan who still keeps that tradition going. It's now I was just speaking to her yesterday, actually, and she just told me that France has declared it a national heritage of the country. So that's really interesting. So we'll be learning how the process goes, like from the plant, like to the dye, to creating the different pieces you can create with the dye. So that's really exciting. We'll also be visiting local markets. I think when people come to France, one of the things they always want to do is check out a local daily food market, like a farmer's market. And it's absolutely something you should do because they have the best vibes and they have the best produce. And I might be a bit biased, but I actually like the area we're going to be in is quite an agriculturally driven area. So some of the vegetables that get produced in this area have blown my mind. Like never have I tasted a zucchini until I've tasted a biodynamic zucchini here. You know what I mean? It's just so incredible. So we will be exploring some of the local markets in Foix and Mirepoix. And you'll have an opportunity to kind of taste test things while you're there, pick up anything you would like for little picnics when we go on hikes and things like that. You'll have plenty of opportunities, and you'll get to take in these beautiful medieval villages at the same time. As I mentioned earlier, we'll be exploring the Cathar ruins, and I will be sharing a lot more on the history and and really breaking down and getting into it if people want. I mean, if you want to just go and enjoy, we can do that too. But if you're curious to know the history of the land and everything that comes with these gorgeous ruins that we'll be hiking up to, I'll share it with you. We're hoping to do two. So there's a very famous one in Ariège called Montségur. And it's not very difficult. It's about 45 minutes. It's all uphill. It is slightly steep, but I have a partner who is a very, very high level hiker, and I'm a very low, like I can't do a lot in terms of hiking, and I can do Montségur. So the distance and the time up, it's really beautiful. It's a very beautiful hike up, and then you get to sit in the ruin and you can see the vast territory around. And even from that ruin, you can see the other one we'll do, which is Roc Fixade, which is, in my mind, I feel like it's even more beautiful. This is about a 30-minute uphill walk, again, to like a gorgeous, vast view of the region. We'll also be spending a day in the medieval city of Carcassonne. Carcassonne is a very well-known area. It's often a day trip for people visiting Toulouse. There's even a board game called Carcassonne that's like kind of known throughout the world. And it is based on this place. And it's a medieval fortified city. It's absolutely gorgeous. If you're going to be here, it's worth visiting it. But in addition to this, I've recently discovered a little village that's just like maybe 15, 20 minutes from Carcassonne, that is known as a book village. So it's a village filled with all of these like old, quaint little French bookstores. So we're going to spend a morning in Carcassonne, followed by an afternoon just wandering around this beautiful village of art and books, exploring bookstores. You can stop at a cafe, you can have like a little drink or a coffee or tea, anything you want. And that's going to be an eventful day, but also a very nice, relaxed day. In the photos, you can see the photo of Toulouse with Saint-Sernin, the UNESCO Heritage Site, in the back there. The second photo is actually this village I just spoke of, Montelieu, with the beautiful books and everything like that. You'll see these water fountains are very prevalent throughout all of the village countryside here. And the last picture is a picture of the gorgeous Pyrenees. I actually took that in the winter, but it kind of gives you a sense of just a small glimpse of the expansive views that you'll see while you're out here with us. More photos. This is a picture of a tiny little, I want to say hedgehog. Yeah, it's a hedgehog, tiny little hedgehog, because I just wanted to express the fact that you will see animals out here. I've had moments where my husband and I have been driving home at night and we have had to wait to let 6 boars cross our path. Wildlife is out here. I've lived out here for 4 years now. If you just let them do their thing, it's usually fine. But it's a beautiful area. You never know what you're going to see or find. You can often see deer. I've seen owls. I've seen so many things. We also have tons of Milan noir, which is black kites, black and royal kites out here. So it's fantastic for bird watching if anybody's into birds as much as I am. The second photo is the Chateau de Foix, which is a very important chateau in relation to the Cathar history again, but we will be going to the village market of Foix, so you'll be able to see that. It's kind of perched up on a hill in the middle of the village, and it's really beautiful. I just added a picture of some columbines to show, generally you'll see at the time that you'll be here, spring is really going to be in swing. So everything will be budding and flowering. If it hasn't started yet, it'll just be starting as we go through the week. The second last photo is a photo of this beautiful village I told you about, Mirepoix. This is the city center. So if you go into the village, it's small, and right in the center you have a village square, which is very typical for this area. And again, you can sit down, you can go on the carousel. I love living in a place where there's literally carousels everywhere. I don't know why. I just think it's so sweet. And then this is the Musée d'Augustin again, with that beautiful architecture inside that's just absolutely stunning. And you can see this kind of layout where there's like a garden in the middle in the middle of the villa a lot here in different churches and museums and things like that. So food, here we go. Local food, French food experience. So like Letitia was saying, everything's going to be local and seasonal. I really learned how to eat seasonally once I moved out here, and it's honestly changed the way I eat, and I absolutely love it. I think growing up in Toronto, I was used to kind of having access to everything all the time. And here things are really grown seasonally. So for example, I always talk about kale because when I moved to France, I couldn't find kale. But kale is actually grown in February. So you'll find it in February, but you probably won't find it outside of that. So you really will get a sense of what's seasonal in the time of May. And it's a really good time actually, because the elder trees will be going. So there will be lots of elderflower and things like that. As we said earlier, there will be daily breakfast, and this will probably be, I'm assuming, I have to double check, but like a French continental. Sorry, I need to cough. I got too excited about the food. Sorry. So it'll be like a French breakfast is very simple. They usually have a very light breakfast. It usually includes croissant, chocolatine. It's a very important conversation, a difference. Here in France, you don't say chocolate croissant, you say pain au chocolat, or you say chocolatine. And these two words divide the country. There is a giant battle amongst the French between pain au chocolat and chocolatine. But here in the South, we say chocolatine, and you'll even see people have made t-shirts to say Team Chocolatine, and it's a big thing. So that's usually involved. Orange juice, tea, coffee, things like that is what a classic French breakfast is usually like. But I did stay at the chateau where we'll be staying, and I have a lot of allergy, like food intolerances. So they were really open to accommodating for me. And they actually had special bread made for me that I could eat because I can't have croissant and things like that. So it was really good. And then there will also be 6 dinners. This photo is actually a picture of the dinner one of the dinners that I had at the Chateau de Cibre. This was the opener. So dinners are usually like, depending on the night, it can be anywhere. It can be 3 courses. It can be 4 courses. I think this one we had was 3 courses. This was the opening. So everything here, including the pomegranate, came from the garden. That they have a beautiful potager, which is like what they call a vegetable garden. So this was like a cream of zucchini soup with zucchini on top and then pomegranate. It was divine. I've never tasted anything like this. And the best part is I'm super lactose intolerant, so I can't have dairy. This was vegan. It had no dairy in it whatsoever. And it was very creamy. It tasted like it did. And I know for sure it didn't because I felt absolutely fabulous after I ate it. So it was really, really delicious. One of the other things that will also be happening is a French cooking class with the chef of the chateau. And he is actually Spanish because, again, we're so close to Spain. And he's very, very lovely. It's going to be a really fun experience. He's got a very high energy and he's very passionate about food and he makes incredible food. So that will be fun. Also, there will be options for picnics. Like I said earlier, when we're spending some of these days going to these monuments where we're hiking a bit, we might, or even just going on the bigger hikes that they have planned. We love to picnic. Picnicking was actually invented by the French. It's a very French thing to do, to just sit out there with some cured meat and some cheese and some bread and some tomatoes and just have some wine and enjoy the scenery. So that's definitely going to be in the plans. seasonal fruits and veggies, like we said earlier. Cassoulet is a very famous dish from the Occitanie region, very famously connected to the area of Carcassonne. And it's a local dish, which is slow cooked duck with pork and white beans. Duck is a regional delicacy of the Occitan, just like truffles are a regional delicacy of the Occitan. So you will find a lot is done with duck and truffle here. Also cured meats. The French love a good saucisson, which is like a dried cured meat. There's many different types to choose from. There are going to be cheeses that are very local to the department that we're in. There are some cheeses made here that are the best cheeses I've ever tried, and they are very specific to here. You wouldn't go even into Toulouse necessarily, which is like an hour away, and find some of them. Also, you'll see a lot of tapas style, again, because we're so close to Catalan in the south. Tapas food is very common, especially in the cities, but just that idea of like finger foods, little plates that you can pick at and share, that's a very common thing. And as I said earlier, dietary restrictions, there are options. Especially when we'll be in Toulouse, there are a lot of options. Once we get out to the countryside, it's a little bit trickier. I will say that as a North American coming here, I often felt like I didn't have a lot of options, but in general, the way that French food and French restaurants work is that like you wouldn't go into a restaurant here and get a menu that has like 10 pages of things that you can try. Here, most of the time in a restaurant, you'll go into that restaurant, it'll be one page, and they'll have like 3 or 4 different types of main plates. They'll have 2 different types of entrances. So that's how you would start your meal. Then you go into your main plates. So you have, overall, there are less options, but in the French logic, it's there's less options, but the quality is very, very high. So all this to say that you will still find dietary options, but you might have less than you would have generally in like North America, just because in general, the way that they do food in restaurants, it's very localized and it's very for small businesses. So they don't bring in, they don't have tons and tons of different menu options. Hope I explained that okay. Did that make sense? So for our community give back, so Letty had kind of led to this or spoke about it earlier. Traverse likes to partner with a local non-for-profit organization. So this is the organization we're hoping to partner with. We haven't formalized it yet because it is a seasonal operation, but I'm really hoping we can partner with them because they are an absolutely fantastic place. This is called Le Jardin Extraordinaire. So this is just outside of Mirepoix in Ariégeoise. And it's basically an immersive garden art experience. The entire place consists of volunteers. They have a few staff workers, and then they also bring in artists from all over the Pyrenees, so the French Pyrenees and the Spanish Pyrenees, and they are like artists that use nature as elements to create things. So you can see in this example, this was when I went last summer, I was absolutely blown away by the fact they managed to make a face in the stream here. There's a face and hair growing out of it, and you can see all of the detail that they made along the edge of the river there. So this is kind of the general idea of this garden. The entire garden is grown with heirloom, organic, and biodynamic seeds. It is grown with things that are absolutely conducive to the soil of where they are. And they make really beautiful gardens and honestly immersive art experiences. You walk through an entire immersive art experience, and the art is very localized, very, very connected to that French popular folk art kind of thing. It's honestly one of the most interesting places I've ever been. And the whole organization is non-for-profit. So I'm really hoping that we will have the opportunity to partner with them on this project. So we can give you guys like a a sneak peek into what they'll be working on for the summer of 2024. And finally, there is a special add-on for May 25th that I think Ashley just added. She just kind of worked out adding that together next week, or last week, sorry. If you want to keep the ride going, which you might want to, we can add on a few more days for you back in Toulouse. Toulouse is an incredible city, worth exploring. And within those those days where you're back, there are options to do food tours with somebody who's actually a really good friend of mine. Her name is Jessica Hammer. She owns and operates the only English-speaking food tour company in Toulouse. She's been featured in BBC Good News, Good Food magazine. She's been featured all over the place. She is a fantastic guide, and she gives you really in-depth explorations into food and the food culture of this area. And in France, we know French food is quite famous, but when food is famous, when you get to that country, you can find out very quickly it's usually very localized and very typical to a specific region. So she really dives deep into that. There is the option for a chocolate and pastry tour, which I've done twice, and I don't like chocolate, and it's worth doing. She's very, very well adept at creating tours that are not overpowering for the senses. So you still get to taste something really fantastic and very interesting without being like, oh my God, that was like a lot of chocolate. And she's also doing a wine bar tour. Again, same type of energy. Wine is very specific in France, and you really break it down. And the area we live in, part of the Occitanie region, is Languedoc, and Languedoc is actually mostly known for rosés, but it has a very interesting wine culture, but it's way lesser known than like Bordeaux or like, you know, the big French wine industries. So it's a very interesting way to kind of learn about wine local to here. And I will tell you, I have a friend in New York City that is a wine connoisseur, and when I talk to her about French wine, she always tells me Languedoc wine is some of her favorite wine, especially for summer and spring and summer wines. So it's very interesting to do those tours with her and find out. So you can opt in to do the extra days, and we can arrange all of the hotel stays and everything like that for you. Yes, some tips. Spring travel, think layers. I think the French kind of like live by this rule, and it's a very good rule here. The temperature in general is more moderate than, it's not extreme. Like I come from Toronto, Canada, where we get -40 in the winter and we get 40 in the summer, and it's the very, very deep separation between the two. Here it's more moderate, but you can have days where it starts very fresh in the morning, gets very hot by the middle of the day, and then it's fresh towards the evening. So definitely think in terms of like a tank top and a long sleeve shirt or a sweater or something like that, things you can peel off, and also comfortable shoes. I feel like I don't really need to say that, but you'll be doing a lot of walking. There's a lot of cobblestone in all of the villages and towns, so comfortable shoes. Money, all credit cards are accepted, and sometimes it's easier to have cash in the rural areas. So in Toulouse, credit cards should be fairly easy to do. In the rural areas, especially when we go to markets like in Foix, it's good to have cash because you're really dealing with like local vendors. It's a husband and wife who grow everything right out of their garden and bring it to the market. So sometimes they don't have those big like digital setups. Tipping is not a custom here. Basically, the cost of a tip is essentially included in the fee of the servers here, so you don't have to worry about tipping. I see my husband tends to tip a lot if he really, really loves a service. If he really likes something, he will tip, but he'll tip something like €1, €2. It's more just a gesture to say, hey, you went above and beyond and you were really kind. public transit is readily available in the city, less so in the countryside. Once we're in the countryside, it will be rural. It's gorgeous, but it will be rural. In the city, it's very easy. There's Uber in Toulouse. There is, a subway that's a very small subway system, so pretty easy to navigate if you've ever navigated like a big subway system, and buses and trains and all of these things. And yes, I guess for what to pack, you can check out this link if you're curious what to pack for a yoga retreat. I also specialize in travel fashion. So if anybody is curious on what to pack for the things outside of the yoga retreats, you can always go and check me out on Instagram at Tegan_Aline_. And I do a lot of conversations around what to wear when you're traveling. Yeah, I guess I should turn it over to you now, Andrea, I think. Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Tegan.
No problem.
So if you want to join us in 2024, our trip is running from May 18th to 24th. And if you book by the end of October and use this code France Live, you can get $200 off the total price. And feel free to check out our website here to learn more about the France retreat. You can see us on Instagram and Facebook. And if you have any questions, when I send out the recording later today, just feel free to ask them. And if you have any questions now, when you're joining us, we can take those next.
Thank you. That was a wonderful presentation.
Yeah, it was really, really informative, Tegan. I learned so much about France.
I was just, I know, right? Or that region. What do you mean by departments?
So basically France in general is divided up by, it's divided up into a series of administrative regions, right? And I think I actually made a note about this in my notebook to see. There's 18 regions in the whole of France. And then once you're inside the region, it gets further broken down into departments. So it kind of leads back to that conversation about things being identity, like cultural identity here is like my neighbors here have a cultural identity that is absolutely different from the neighbors I had in Toulouse, even though we're only about an hour and 20 minutes from each other. And you would think you're in a completely different time space continuum, you know what I mean? And it's really apparent by department. So for example, living in the Haute-Garonne, you'd be considered, most of the time you'd be considered a Toulousan because you're in Toulouse, even though Toulouse is just one part of that department, but that's usually what people think of in that area as a Toulousan. Here we're Ariégeoise. And it's a totally different energy, and it means a totally different thing to be an Ariégeoise versus being a Toulousan. So it's really broken down by the different departments. So they're kind of like, I don't know how to explain it, but it's kind of like invisible markers of culture and identity into these different pockets. Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah. I was just going to say, if you're on the fence about coming, think about it and grab this $200 off. And also, the trip is already made. We already have enough people. It's going to sell out pretty quickly. There's only 4 or 5 more spots available. And yeah, it does, for if you're in the United States, it does link up to Memorial Day. So if you want to take those extensions that Tegan was talking about with the chocolate and wine, you'll have off that Monday anyway, so you can still fly back a day later, not miss another day of work, and have Memorial Day to recover.
Oh, perfect, right? That's fantastic. I don't know if Canada has an equivalent holiday. When's Memorial Day? Oh yeah, I guess it's on the 25th of May, 26th of May. Yeah, I don't know if we have an equivalent holiday, but either way.
Can I ask what the total cost is?
Sure, go ahead.
Can I ask what the total cost is?
Oh, the total cost.
Yes.
I think the 8 days are $3,495 minus the $200 off, but Andrea will double check. So 3,495 minus your 200.
Yep,
then you still have the flight.
$3,495 per person, and then if you book by October 31st, it'll be $200 off of that price.
Then you still have the flights.
Yes,
Correct.
and then you would have to book your flight.
Okay. And is there any other bookings that we have to be, you're saying something about accommodations in a few places that we had to book or not?
No, the accommodations are all arranged by us,
Okay.
and they're included in the price, along with all of the breakfasts, and I think it's 6 dinners as well.
Dinners. Only if you're doing the extension would you need an extra night on your own. But we have a welcome dinner in Toulouse, and then all 5 dinners at the chateau for the 5 nights, and then all breakfast.
Yeah, and I think
Okay.
Ashley said that if people want to book the extension, we'll still arrange the accommodations for you.
Tegan, if I do want to stay that extra day or two, would it be in the hotel that we stay in at the beginning, or y'all will help us take care of that?
Yeah, we'll arrange it. I think the goal is to have you guys stay back at the hotel that we'll stay in the first couple of nights. They have a lovely staff. The rooms are really kind of like French classic kind of style, great views of the city, of like the city and the different architecture and stuff. So I think ideally we would try to bring you back to that hotel.
And it's-
Okay, because I'm very interested in doing that. My daughter and I.
Yay!
Yeah.
Yay! I'll come join you. I'll come back with you guys. I'll
That'd be
never say
great.
no to chocolate and wine out here.
Well, I'm gonna move there, Tegan. No.
Come move. I'm trying to create a community. You know what I mean?
Well, do we have any other questions? Otherwise, we're going to wrap up for today.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thanks for listening to
Appreciate
me
it.
ramble for an hour. I appreciate it.
Wonderful.
You
Bye.
did a great job.
Oh, thank you so much. At one point I was like, I haven't taken a breath in like an hour.
You learned
No,
a lot.
it's exciting. You're going to be with us in the castle, so it'll be fun to hear. I love